Hi, I'm Ricky Wheeler, and I'm the marketing director or the CMO or whatever you want to call it. I'm the guy that does marketing at a company called Ebsta. We're an app exchange app, and I want to talk to you a little bit about today about Pardot and how we're using it, which is completely different from what I know to every other company in the world using it. So to give you a little bit of background, that's what I'm going to talk about. You can all read, so I'm sure I don't need to repeat it. So starting about me, first of all, you'll see that I put a nice, great big picture of myself. When I smile, you can see that I'm missing a tooth. So I just wanted to sort of show that I did actually used to have a full set of teeth. I've been using Salesforce for a really, 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 really long time. 2005. Now, I'm not pretending to be an MVP or an admin or someone that knows any more about Salesforce than you, but I've been using it for a long time. And I've also been using Pardot for a really, 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 really long time. So 2009, I started using Pardot. That's way before ExactTarget and Salesforce and all this sort of acquisitions took place. And I've been doing marketing for a fair amount of time as well. But I actually started my career in client services or customer success or whatever you want to call it, is the people responsible for looking after customers. And sorry about that. And when I moved into marketing, and when I look at all the marketing organizations and what everyone's trying to achieve, there's this massive, massive onus on generating new leads. How can we generate more leads? How we can do the nurturing? How we can build loads of sales opportunities and use marketing to do all of the stuff relating to new business development. But what I don't see a lot of is people going, well, actually, how do we reduce churn? How do we retain our customers? How do we use all of these tools to make sure that our customers stay with us? I think everyone, I'm not going to be, enlightening you too much, but we all know that it's cheaper to retain a customer than to generate a new one. The cost of sale, all of the stuff that goes into generating a new customer or new revenue, it's a lot cheaper and more efficient to just keep the customers that you've already got. And for anyone in the sort of technology sphere, if you can keep, a good proportion of your customers and then continue to grow, that's when you get double-digit growth, and that's when you get higher valuations and all the rest of it. So before I kick off, who uses Pardot? A few people. Who knows what Pardot is? Good. And who works in customer service? One person. Good. Okay, so Pardot. I think really, and I'm going to first talk about Pardot for sales, so it makes more sense when I start talking about it for customer service. But Pardot for me really does four things. It's about gathering information. For sales, that's about people filling in forms. You can use dynamic forms, so if people have filled in information before, you can start changing the fields to glean more information out of that prospect each time they fill a form in. It's about monitoring activity. When people visit your website, it will drop a cookie, and then it will track everything they look at, and all the white papers they look at, and all the webinars they sign up to, so it's constantly tracking. It's got this email marketing part, which is called nurturing, and really it's just email marketing on steroids. It's moving away from this, let's get a big list and send everyone the same email, to let's try and send people a series of emails which actually might be relevant to their role, where they might be in the stage sales process, and so on. So it's really about getting much cleverer with the emails that you're sending people. And finally, and probably the biggest thing for me is the visibility, the notifications, the integration with Salesforce. In a world where every minute of the day we're trying to get some sort of new technology in place, or there's a new app or there's a new system. Really, as Salesforce admins, all we want is for everyone to just live inside Salesforce, everyone to work inside Salesforce. We want to report, we want to monitor, we want to control, we want everyone in that Salesforce environment. So they're the four things for me that Pardot does for sales. So I'm just going to take you through a typical Pardot setup, just so you can get your sort of head into the way of thinking. So as I said, someone visits your website. Now this person might have come from an email campaign, they might have come from a pay-per-click campaign, they might have come from, you see me at this event or whatever. And at that point, Pardot will drop a cookie, and it will identify the source of that person, and it will store that. Now, right now, Pardot doesn't know who you are. So next, someone will fill in a form. So whether that's a white paper registration or a webinar, you're going to submit your details into Pardot. And at that point, Pardot is going to go back. It's going to look at all the times you visited the website. It's going to look at all the things you've done. It's going to associate those two things together. And based on what you filled in the form, it's probably going to give you some sort of score. If you're, a dustman in Arkansas, you're probably not going to get a higher score. If you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you'd probably build it to grade that as quite a high score. And then really what you're going to do is someone's filled in a form, then you're going to add them to some sort of nurturing campaign. So let's say in this example we're doing a 2-month nurture. We've added them to a campaign, so what does that mean? We're going to start sending them emails about different things we're doing, whether that's information about our product or service, or content which is actually much, much further down the sales funnel, more generic content which relates to your industry. But we're just going to start sending people little emails because they looked at a white paper, they wasn't ready to buy at that point. They don't want to get, called up by a salesperson and hounded, buy a software, because really they were just interested in that white paper. So the nurture campaign runs, and at some point, something happens. Someone signs up to a webinar about the product or whatever. And on that happening, we reach the score. The action, the desired outcome was taken. So then what are we going to do with it? Well, at that point, we're going to plumb it back into Salesforce. We're going to track the original campaign, where the person came from. And then, with any luck, they'll be able to get through to the person on the call. They'll be able to open an opportunity. And the golden utopia is the opportunity gets closed, and actually we can say we spent money here, and it generated this much here. And that's the golden utopia of marketing, which is tracking marketing ROI, which frankly is a very, very, very tricky thing to do, and pretty much every company I've ever spoken to struggles with it. So now I'm going to talk about customer success. What is customer success? So for me, there are 3 stages. Stage 1 is reactive. It's I'm phoning customer services or I'm emailing support. I used PlusNet for my broadband, and I moved in December, and I phoned PlusNet because I wanted to move my broadband to the new property that I was moving into. Seems an easy enough task. After being on hold for 34 minutes, when I got through to the person, I cancelled my agreement with them because, I don't have 34 minutes to spare on hold to do simple things. So you can really, really fail at this, just stage 1. And, when you're on online helpline, support, online chats and all the rest of it, if there's a 17-minute wait, or if you're sending an email and someone's getting back to you 8 hours later, there's a massive issue to get into stage 1. But what I really want to talk about today is stage 2. What can we do? What can we predict to retain our customers? What is taking place which might give us an indication that customer is likely to leave or is unhappy? And how can we be proactive at retaining that revenue before the date comes where they're actually going to say goodbye, thanks very much? And then the third stage is when every customer is happy and you're just upselling and cross-selling them, and they can't buy enough products or services off your company. So going back 10 years maybe, this was my process. And I'll be honest, I'm not going to cover onboarding today. I think everyone completely over-resources onboarding. Not just from not from just a people point of view, but we set up, if you're in technology, you'll set up lots of videos on how to use it, and you'll set up, wizards in your product so people can quickly get up to speed, and you'll make sure that person is rolled out and onboarded within a set time frame, because if they're using your product or service and they're using it and they're getting value from it straight away, then you've kind of done your job. And pretty much everyone's pretty good at that, as a rule. Then it gets to, we're 3 months in. Well, we're going to monitor the usage, or we're going to have a check-in call with a client, and we're going to check everything's tickety-boo. And then the 6th month, again, we speak to the client, we look at the usage, we monitor usage. If they're really, really happy, we might ask them for a potential reference or testimonial that we can use for marketing. And then we really get into the high-touch bit. We're approaching renewal. So, we're 9 months in. We're going to do a really sort of deep look into the usage. We're going to verify billing. Billing is a massive one. In a technology business, are credit card details out of date? If they are, you are not going to recognize the revenue when that product or service renews. Has the billing contact left? How many of us have sold to someone and we come around to renew and say, hey, we're phoning about the renewal, and that person doesn't work there anymore, and actually no one's got a clue about anything that you do, and again, you've churned the customer. So really, really crucial stage. At some point, we're going to commence the renewal. We're going to, monitor whether we can sell more or etc. And then we're going to renew, and everything's great. And then we're going to expand our use cases, and that's in sort of 2 ways really. Do we have new case studies, and have we got use cases that we can use for marketing, or actually, is our product now servicing a different need? Is there now a new thing that our product does that we didn't know about before, which could open up a new market or a new segment or a new set of people we could target? And then we go back to the beginning again. So that's, pretty easy, really. We set up some workflows. So the problem we had is that we grew really, really quickly. I mean, actually, it was twofold, really. Number one, we grew really, really quickly. So we got something like 12 or 13,000 companies using our software in 2 years. So that was problem one. How do you resource up to do this for 12,000 companies? The second thing was most of these companies are paying us sub $100 a month. If you start adding up the costs of the calls and the people and the resources and the staff, you're losing money. You're not going to resource up for that type of revenue. So we looked at, how could we do things better? How could we automate? What could we do that gave us a fighting chance of not churning the customers? How could we make sure that we're going to, retain as much revenue as we can possibly do, but at the same time, how can we make it really low touch, low resources? So we went back to Pardot. And the funny thing was that all of the things we were using Pardot for sales actually related to what we were trying to do in customer success. When we're talking about gathering information, well, when we're generating leads, we're trying to get people to fill in forms, but how can we be using surveys to see whether people are happy? What parts of the product or service they find most useful? How can, with the monitoring activity, visitor tracking, well, it's pretty standard to say, well, someone looks at the pricing page, ping your sales rep, your bloodthirsty sales rep an email saying, this person's looking at pricing, quickly give them a call. But are there support articles? Are there things on your website which are big indicators that go, this guy might be leaving? Is there how do I export all my data out of Salesforce? That could be one, So there's certain things that you can do there. Drip campaigns you turn into engagement programs. How do we keep these people warm? Rather than trying to, I tried to buy I'm looking to buy a new piece of webinar software. So I engaged with a trial and I said yes. And the company sent me an email with 22 PDFs and a website with 60 videos. And I said, no, thank you. We can't, someone's signed up to your product or service, we can't just dump everything on them. There's definitely, we need to reach stages. We need to nurture. We're going to grow this account. We're going to let them know about things as they sort of learn, as they're getting more proficient in the use of your software or service. And the last thing is the visibility and notifications. If people are doing stuff which indicates they might churn, or if people are doing stuff that indicates, on the other side, whether they're really, really happy, how do we get that in Salesforce? How do we proactively manage that? How do we get our client services team working in Salesforce to really be proactive and really, really be efficient with their time? So I was going to try and map out somehow what we do. And actually, I realised that I've only got 25 minutes, and that screen is not big enough. So I just want to look at really, really specific examples of how you, and we're not necessarily doing all these ourselves, but how you can use Pardot to actually try and automate the sort of stuff I'm talking about. So, expired billing details. If a credit card expires, it won't work. If it does not work, you will not recognise the revenue in the month that it's supposed to come in. So, really easy. You know, if you've got the renewal date and the expiry date against an account in Salesforce, you can run a rule that makes Pardot pick those up. And you can say, if expiry date is before renewal date, send an email. Now again, we don't use this because we use a recurring system, but it's a very sort of simple example, and I wanted to start simple before I got more complicated. But the key thing here, the difference between Pardot, you know, it's very easy to say, hey, we could do that in Salesforce. You know, we could just do a little workflow, send an email. But the big difference with Pardot is, number one, you can see whether people open that email. Generally speaking, how many people open it. Number two, do they click the link? Number three, does the email bounce? You know, so the sort of insight you'll get on the templates that you're using in Pardot versus what you're using in Sales is you know, just chalk and cheese. The other thing about Pardot is if you're running this in some sort of drip or automation campaign, and we wouldn't necessarily do it on this example, but the great thing about Pardot is that you go, right, okay, we're going to send them an email, we're going to say, you know, your credit card's expired and you need to update them before, you know, this date, otherwise you're not going to renew. But then you can say, with a very, very simple logic, did this person open the email? You know, so we can wait 3 days. If they haven't opened the email, then we can just send them another email. And if they don't open that email, then we say we'll send them another email. And if they don't open that email, then we just go, right, just give them a call because they're probably never going to open an email. I've just put this renewal automation quarterly for the Pardot users out there. You will all know that people can only run through one automation once. So if this person's on a, say, a quarterly renewal thing and their credit card expires, then it will never be able to go through that automation rule again. That might be slightly technical, but if you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to talk to me afterwards. Okay, next one. Change of decision maker. As I said, we've got, you know, all these thousands of clients, and this change happened in December. And already we've recognised about 180 people that have left their job. So that's pretty big. You know, we've got 180 people in a view who no longer work at the company, and they are the main contact role. They are the main person that bought our product. You know, so all we're doing is we're just taking standard Pardot fields. You know, did they opt out? Did they hard bounce? Are they a do not email? The bounce reason. You know, is it a soft bounce? Is their mailbox just full, or are they no longer at the company? And then you've obviously got your dates. So it's very, very easy to say, right, okay, well, we've got opportunity contact roles. We're going to display this information on the contact roles. We're going to look at people where they're bouncing, and we're going to see, you know, what the bounce reasons are, so we can proactively start phoning those companies and say, hey, it looks like John's left. You know, who's the next person to contact? Can we get you into a new process where we're, you know, is there new training required? Is there new onboarding required? With all of these things, there's always going to be a next step. It's never the end. You know, every sort of everything, you know, everything I can describe, there's always something next to do. But it's just a very, very neat way for us to recognise when, you know, we're not getting through to people when people are leaving the company. So the next one, customer health score. This is one of my favourites. Customer health is quantitative and qualitative. As I said before, if you're a technology company, you know, oh, people are using the product loads. That means they're happy. Well, it doesn't. You know, someone using the product loads could be exporting all their data. They could be using it loads because they're doing some sort of comparison with another product. You know, it's not carte blanche on they're happy. Similarly for us, we've, I really don't want to sort of get into pitching at all, but we've got a calendar sync option on our email integration. So people will log in and they'll sync their calendar and they will do it once. And then we've got a whole host of other tools for integrating emails and doing lots of really clever stuff. But some users, I'd say probably 40% of our users, never use any of the good stuff. So you go, oh, well, they're really unhappy. You know, they're not looking at the app, they're not using the functions and features, they're going to leave. But in actual fact, they only installed the app to sync the calendars. So even though they never log in, they never do anything, they're actually really, really happy because they didn't want the other features and functionalities to start with. So that's what I mean. You can't just look. You need that sort of qualitative research. Now, obviously, you can phone every customer up, but what we started doing is we started sending a get feedback survey. So the thing I love about get feedback, I don't know if any of you know it, but it takes all the old survey software and you hit the page. What's your name? What's your surname? What's your this? What's your that? And you spent 15 minutes on it before you've even given them any information. So integrating Get Survey with Pardot allows me to send a survey. I can pass the contact ID. I can pass the first name, last name, account ID, opportunity ID. I can pass anything in the URL. When the person clicks on that link, they open a survey and it goes, hey, give us some feedback. And they go through 3 questions, which is, classic net promoter. Of a score of 1 to 10, how would you recommend a service? 2, are there any sort of things that you love about the product? 3, are there anything that you really, really hate about the product? And that action, that filling in that survey, can be done in about 12 seconds. All the information that they fill in then comes back into Pardot, comes back into Salesforce, and we can start doing some really clever stuff. So let's concentrate on these people first. If you're -5 on a net promoter score, the general rule is you could leave. You might not be very happy about that. So what are you going to do? What's the next action? Well, we can actually make all of those respondents appear in a Salesforce view with the fact that they've got a low net promoter score, and we can show the reasons why they're not happy. So that's a really good start. Customer success can go through, they can see the reasons why people aren't happy. Shit, we didn't even have to phone these people, they're telling us. And the second thing that you can do, which is slightly even cleverer, is you can show these people, and you can do it in if you add them back into a campaign and you do an opportunity with campaigns, you can actually see low net promoter scores against the value of the opportunities, which is really key. And, the type of person, what is their job title? If you're getting a load of 1s, but it's from a users and you've got 1,000 licenses out, you're not going to be too worried. If your decision maker is giving you a 1 and he's the main contact on the account, you pretty much want to get on the phone. And you can order your work, you can make sure you're being most efficient by, concentrating on the highest revenue first, or concentrating on the biggest advocates first, or again, the processes in your business. But it's just a very, very neat way to mop up generally speaking, again, the people that fill in the survey are the people that will talk to you. They will take the call. They're interested. They want you to be better. The people that are too busy, can't be asked to do a survey and all the rest of it, are probably, less likely to speak to you anyway. Now, here's the really cool thing. I'm in marketing. I know the people that are happy. Well, what do we do with those? Do we get testimonials? Do we ask them to, do stuff on the app stores, or on the various sort of software vendor review sites and all the rest of it? And actually, we could start phoning them, but we just chuck those straight back into Pardot and go, hey, we see you give us a really high score in our survey. Would you mind doing X? Would you be interested in this? And all of that's completely automated. So again, sort of a real life example. This is we do actually have this in play. Again, going back to what this 1, 2, 3 means is, if you send someone an email and say, will you fill in a survey, you'll get a hit rate, whatever that is. If you send them another one, that hit rate will go up by 12%. If you send them another one and go, really sorry to keep bugging you, but will you fill in a survey, the third one will actually get your hit rate to go up by probably another 18%. So from 1 email to 3 emails, the amount of surveys, the amount of responses you're getting actually goes up quite significantly. So, yeah, I don't know what happened there. So the very last thing is failed adoption during incubation. So incubation is this onboarding thing. You know, we've sold someone a service or a product. Have they not logged in? Have they not done certain steps in the onboarding process? Have they not, you know, there's a myriad of reasons which could mean that they've failed to, you know, adopt during the incubation. So providing you could track that in Salesforce, the last really, really neat thing about Pardot is that you can map any amount of fields, any amount of values. Pardot could be set to pick that up. And what we would do here is we wouldn't just start sending them a load of emails. We would say, you know, what is that user? Then start sending them emails, then add them to campaigns, then make them appear against the opportunities to say they've completed those campaigns, so our customer success could then proactively go through the campaigns and talk about that. I'm out of time, but I'm going to say one last thing. Don't be these guys. The line is there. Always try and get to this side. And that's it. No time for a Q&A. Thank you very much. If you wouldn't mind tweeting me and doing all the rest of it, that would be great.